Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we are going to continue our Master Class series look at Warhammer Quest 1995. And in this episode, we are going to be focusing on two things. We are going to be focusing on some of the publications created by Games Workshop, specifically the White Dwarf issues and the Deathblow issues. And then we are going to be taking a detailed look at some of the DIY components, some of the fan-created components, with, of course, a focus on the things that Little Monk has created. This will probably be the final episode in the Masterclass series on Warhammer Quest. So when I was actively buying all of my stuff for Warhammer Quest, one of my favorite things, or actually my favorite thing to buy, were all of the White Dwarf issues. These are so cool. I love old magazines, especially old gaming magazines, whether they be board game or video game magazines, because they are such a relic of their time, and they provide an interesting glimpse into different aspects of the hobby, and they're kind of like time capsules, and I get really nostalgic when I read them, and it's so much fun. So I'm not going to take as detailed a look at the issues that I did in my long form series on Warhammer Quest. So if you want to see a more detailed look, you can go check those out. But we will be flipping through these a little bit. And I think the way we're going to start off here is I'm actually going to take a look real quick at issue 184 and issue 208. These are kind of the book ending issues of White Dwarf. This is where Warhammer Quest was introduced. And then 2 years later, this is where the retrospective was done. Issue 184, of course, we have the cover there by Jeff Taylor. And of course, that is the cover of the box. And that is also a cover of the Deathblow magazine. They got a lot of use out of that piece of art. And rightly so. It's really, really good. But in this issue here, we have the main article here is the introduction to Warhammer Quest. So it's basically a big kind of fluff piece, a big advertisement. That is, of course, what Games Workshop did with White Dwarf. This was basically just a magazine to advertise all of their things, but some of the writing was pretty good. And so in here we get Warhammer Quest Dungeon Adventures in the Warhammer World by Andy Jones. This April, Games Workshop releases its brand new dungeon adventure game, Warhammer Quest. We ask designer Andy Jones to give us the lowdown on the development of this latest addition to the Games Workshop hobby. Over the last year or so, we've been kept busy writing army lists and developing the background for many different Warhammer races. All this work is periodically published as a new Warhammer Armies book. And with every volume, we add an extra layer of detail to the Warhammer world. Most of this background detail takes the form of characters, stories, illustrations, and maps of the newly charted regions. This is because our primary intention is to develop a rich history and background to the Warhammer Old World, within which individual Warhammer battles and linked campaigns can develop and unfold. As well as creating a superb setting for fighting out tabletop battles, we also realized that the Warhammer world had just the right atmosphere for another type of game. Rather than commanding an army and facing the forces arrayed against you by another player, in this game you would command just one bold warrior in a party of 4 like-minded heroes in order to venture into the caverns, caves, dungeons, and other perilous underground realms of the Warhammer world. As we looked at the Warhammer map, we realized that here was a great opportunity to explore the world in even more detail. The Warhammer Armies books have created such a rich and evocative mix of races, cultures, locations, and monsters that the possibilities for each for such a game seemed almost endless. Adventures might be set in the catacombs below Middelheim, in the deep Skaven-infested tunnels of the Vault Mountains, or as far afield as the citadel of Morgheim and the cursed undead necropolis of Kimri. You could even journey to the Chaos Dwarfs' land and venture deep below the burning furnaces of Azar Nagarand, though there is no guarantee you'd get back in one piece. And so this article just kind of goes into detail about the creation of the game, the design, what they went, how they designed everything, from the cards to the dungeons to the events and the treasure. And then here we have a nice little layout of the warriors and some examples of the cards. And again, that picture showing everything you get in the box and the warrior packs and the advanced and the future adventure packs, which we will touch a little bit more upon those later. But that's just a nice little history there, a nice little introduction. And then we get our first ad here for Warhammer Quest in this issue. And then in issue 208, we have, again, an article by Andy Jones, and this is 2 years on, so this is kind of a retrospective, a post-mortem. Well, frankly, I'm shocked. Looking at my diary, I see that we are already rolling into 1997 with a vengeance. Apart from heading towards birthday 34, the 10th Golden Demon Award, since I did the first one, and the end of the millennium, and so on, it means that Warhammer Quest is now 2 years old. It hardly seems that long since the first copies were rolling off the presses, but spring 1995 it was. That means that people have been playing Warhammer Quest for longer than it took me to write it, which is something of an achievement, as at the time it felt like an eternity. And so this is just an article where Andy Jones kind of looks back at what was available and his kind of thoughts on the game. And then we have a checklist here of all of the White Dwarf issues that have content for Warhammer Quest. And I do have all of them except for 199, which is using warriors in Warhammer. That does not interest me whatsoever. And there is that Bretonnian Knight kind of taunting me. Probably the one hero pack that I will never actually own. So those are the two bookends, issues 184 and 208. The first main issue here is issue 185. And this issue here, we get Mission Impossible, written by Gavin Thorpe. So this was the mission that introduced the jail. So here you can make your photocopy of your jail tile and make your tile out of that. And then you had your dungeon card that you could print out for your jail card and your little token you could make for the goal, for the jail key, I should say. And then you had 3 different quests that you could use with that little tile. And those were special tiles, and those were tiles that you could draw at random at the beginning of a normal quest, and then you could mix that in to kind of have a sub-quest or a side quest to also go on. And the 3 quests were the Mad Beast, the Guards, and the Slavers. And all of those were orientated around that one tile of the jail. Okay, and then we have episode, or I keep saying episode, we have issue 186. And issue 186 was the issue that introduced the Flames of Kozla tile, which was also in the Catacombs of Terror. And so this was, again, another special quest card. And it had, I believe this one had 6 different quests associated with it. You had the Task of Kozla. These were side quests. The Tasks of Kozla, the Gifts of Kozla, Offering of Kozla, Renewal of Kozla, the Guardian of Kozla, and finally the Warning of Kozla. And then there was your photocopy. You could photocopy your tile to make one, and then that was the card that you would use in order to shuffle into your dungeon deck. And then there is also an advertisement for the Warrior Priest. And then issue 187, looks like we have a few things in issue 187 here. We have our first advertisement there for the Lair of the Orc Lord. Nice spread there. And then let's see, what else do we have here? All right, so we have the Lair of the Orc Lord. So this is a preview article written by Andy Jones and Dean Bass. Lair of the Orc Lord is the first adventure pack for Warhammer Quest. In this article, Andy and Dean explain what this new type of pack is all about and give us a glimpse of what dangers lurk in the lair of the Orc Lord. So again, this is just kind of a preview issue, perhaps, but this was interesting. The future. So this says, Lair of the Orc Lord is the first in a whole series of adventure packs. We are currently working on packs for many different races that live in the dark and dangerous places beneath the Warhammer world. Rumor has it that Gavin Thorpe has ventured into the lands of undead. Okay, so that was true. Dean Bass is lost in the heart of Skaven Blight, and Andy Jones is trying to escape from the Chaos Dwarfs, sorcerers of Azar Nagrund. Okay, so the Skaven adventure pack never came to light. It was shrunk down to a single article in an issue of White Dwarf called Tunnels of Pestilence, I believe, or Domain of the Horned Rat. And but that has been further expanded on by Little Monk in order to bring that more in line with the other adventure packs. And also the Chaos Dwarf adventure pack was never, as far as I know, it was never completed, but that is also another adventure pack that the fans have made, and I believe that that has been made into the Mountains of Mayhem adventure pack, and we will be taking a look at that in a bit. You also get some treasure cards here. You can photocopy and make your own cards for some extra treasure, and then we also have a ad for the Imperial Noble. Okay, and then we have issue 188 here. We have issue 188. We have an article. Let's see, what was the first thing up here? Probably just an ad. Yep, an ad for the Elf Ranger. And then we have Creatures of Darkness by Ian Pickstock. The caverns and dungeons below the Warhammer world are treacherous places. Courageous warriors battle against evil, questing for lost treasures through the unending danger of bloodthirsty monsters and vicious traps. And this article basically just kind of goes through how to create your own events and your own monster cards. Pretty basic. And kind of not a lot of cool info in there. And here we go. There is that awesome cover of the Catacombs of Terror there. So this must be the issue where they introduced that. And let's see here. We probably have an ad for it here, I would imagine. Oh, no, we have an ad there for our Troll Slayer, our Dwarf Troll Slayer. And then we have a ad for the Elf Ranger and an article by Gavin Thorpe, The Darkness Below. There are many lost catacombs and forbidding tunnels beneath the old world. Some of these cavernous underground cities are so deadly that even the bravest and strongest warriors have perished in the darkened halls in their quest for glory, gold and glory. Can your warriors face the toughest challenges and survive? So this is a way to kind of build out a little more deadly kind of mini campaigns, just some rules that you can use. And then, of course, it comes with a few treasure cards that you can photocopy, 2 treasure cards, and a treasure map that you can use, a treasure map token. And then we have issue 190 here, issue 190. I thought this was interesting, where Andy Jones actually goes and explores some actual tombs and stuff. That was kind of cool there. Again, this is just so fun to read through old magazines. And here we have Dark Secrets. So Dark Secrets were... Snorri Ironaxe glanced back over his shoulder, listening carefully for the faintest sound. As the other warriors investigated a trap door, the dwarf caught the sound of footsteps, the same footsteps which had haunted him for so long. It was no use. He'd have to tell them. Now, brave comrades, he began. There's something you should know. So Dark Secrets, these were cards that you could make, and you would print those out and then hand one to each player before the game. And it kind of gives each of the heroes, each of the players, a secret objective, some kind of a secret that they were keeping from the other players. Those have been officially printed by and expanded by Little Monk here. And he has released this card pack here that you can also make yourself if you want to. Okay, and then issue 191 here. What do we have here? So issue 191, I thought this was kind of cool. Is this the one? Where is that? No, this is not the one I was thinking of, but we have an ad for the War Dancer. And then we have an article by Gavin Thorpe called A Horror Awakens. A cry for help in the dead of night leads your warriors into ever greater danger as they track down and pursue an evil necromancer. A lone witch hunter knows of this danger that could plunge the old world into a nightmare of war and death. but only with the help of your brave warriors can this evil be stopped. So this is, again, another way to kind of expand your quest with some more information given in this article there. I thought I had some cards in here. Oh yeah, I do have 2 original treasure cards on this card stock here. So we have the Soul Stone and the Blessed Water. It's kind of cool to still have those unpunched. And then here we have issue 192. We have Into the Depths by Gavin Thorpe and Andy Jones. Good solid dwarf stone, exclaims Snorri Ironaxe. There's Snorri again, approvingly as he noisily stomped down the tunnel. Stay up for the centuries, this will. You mark my words. There was an ominous crumble, a creak, and with a shower of dust, the roof suddenly collapsed on top of the vulnerable dwarf. So here we have a collapsed passage. We have the stairway going down, and this the dead end here. And then I believe that this also came, yes. So I still have this cardboard here, this cardboard piece with those original tiles. Our blocked passage, our collapsed passage, and our stairway going down. We have a dead end and the collapsed passage there. So again, and then there is a preview of what was supposed to be probably the box art for the Chaos Dwarf Adventure Pack that never materialized. Okay, then we have issue 193 here, and this is A Dungeon of Your Own by Gavin Thorpe. Of course, nobody knows we're here, manling, Snorri Ironaxe reassured his barbarian companion. To prove his point, the dwarf limped ahead of the others and into the dimly lit chamber that was their goal. There was a cruel snicker from the darkness as the Skaven sprang their trap. So again, this is a short, brief little article on just kind of how to create custom decks, custom events for your various games of Warhammer Quest. Here we have a pretty cool little ad that kind of shows everything that was available at this time for Warhammer Quest. And I believe we have, yes, we also have another set of event cards that are unpunched from the magazine on this card stock. We have Spider's Lair, Treasure Trove, Orc Ambush, and Rat Ogre. Okay, then we have issue 194 here. Issue 194 has, is that all I have marked in issue 194 is an ad? Here we go. Well met. So this was an article by Andy Jones. Warriors come in all shapes and sizes, from the brave of a barbarian to the lightning-fast reflexes of a war dancer or the fencing skills of an imperial noble. Andy explores the mysteries of the warrior and discusses the composition of your heroic adventuring party. So kind of a strategy article here written by Andy Jones. And he gives kind of a breakdown of each of the classes. Are they a fighter? Do they have magic? Are they good for healing? And what is the verdict? I wonder what he says. See, this is pretty funny. Even they didn't like the warrior priest. The warrior priest says, is he a fighter? Is he good at magic? Can he heal? I think that should have been a also. But he says, his holy book can fill in for your magic quite well. His ring of jade heals. His warhammer can do a lot of damage. For protection, his breastplate gives him extra toughness, a good warrior to augment the strength of the party. His blessings help the other warriors, giving them strength, etc. when in dire peril. Yeah, it goes into a breakdown of each of the warriors, so that is kind of cool. Just a nice little strategy article that you could read to kind of make up some cool parties of warriors there. Okay, and then we have issue 195 here, which Domain of the Horned Rat. So this was kind of the whole Skaven adventure pack condensed down into a single article along with some tiles. I believe this is the issue that had the tiles. I just have printouts. There was 2, I believe, that were specific to the Domain of the Horned Rat. Even in the heart of the Empire, no one is safe. Below the bright cities of humanity lurks a darkness which constantly strives to overthrow all civilization. The labyrinthine under-empire of the Skaven stretches from the Skaven Blight like a cancer, endeavoring to create the Domain of the Horned Rat. So we go into some details there. Some of the things you're going to be fighting, and your objective room here, Quark's Laboratory, and the special rules for Quark's Laboratory, the objective room monster table that you would be rolling up when you went there, and then, of course, the 3 different quests. So I'm sure this originally had 6 quests, but it was shrunk down to 3, A Knife in the Dark, sneaking around in Fire and Warpstone. Too bad we never got a full official Skaven expansion for Warhammer Quest. That's a real bummer. Issue 196 here, we have On the Waterfront. So this article is the first of a two-part series introducing coastal towns, ocean journeys, and lost kingdoms to your Warhammer Quest campaigns. Don't worry though, in this issue we give full details of a brand new settlement, a seaport where your warriors can experience all the thrills and spills of harbor life. So this is a new kind of way to play your settlements, where you can go, you can take a boat into a harbor. You have different harbor events, so a bunch of new things to roll up. And you have here your waterfront tavern, so a new place that you could visit in your games there. So just kind of a cool little article there. And then issue 197 should have the second part of that. And here we have Lost Kingdom. So concluding our two-part article on foreign travel, this issue we present rules for a life on the ocean wave. Now your warriors can seek their fortune in distant lands. Of course, they have to survive the perils of the sea first. This gives you further details on ocean travel, on your various harbor locations, hiring a sea captain, and then adventures or events that will happen at sea there. Pretty cool. Nice little supplement there. Issue 200. I do wonder how many of these little articles were eventually supposed to be expanded out into greater expansions. Getting a breath of fresh air. So this is all about converting some of your warriors to outdoor battles. And I think using them for Warhammer Quest a little bit, or Warhammer Basic Fantasy there. Or I should say Fantasy Battles. And here we have issue 201. Issue 201, we have a green and pestilent land. A horrifying disease for which there is no apparent cure threatens to wipe out the entire population of an empire town. A cry for help spurs the warriors to find a way to survive the innocents, or to save the innocents. But the origins of this plague are shrouded in mystery and legend. The warriors must find a way to save the town and perhaps themselves. So this was probably the groundwork for maybe a Nurgle expansion pack. And we get some of the more Nurgle, some of the pestilent stuff there. So some ways to Festimus, the Septile. So kind of just a small article there, not too interesting. And then here we have issue 202. And in issue 202, what do we have here? We have Out of the Darkness. This article introduces us to the idea of adventuring beyond the confines of those drafty, dark old labyrinths and gives your adventures a change of scene. In the notion of taking your party on a jaunt around, say, a castle or a wizard's tower, or maybe even outdoors in the woods appeals to you, then read on and discover how to escape the dungeons. So again, taking your warriors outdoors, having more outdoor adventures, but using the rules of Warhammer Quest in order to do so. And finally, we have issue 204 here, which you do have, let's see, it does have a couple of an event card and a dungeon card. And that was for the sewer and the fascination of Slaanesh. And then we have our sewer tile here, which I have a printout of that I have made. Room for improvement. Making your adventures more individual has been a common theme throughout many of our Warhammer Quest articles. In previous issues, we've looked at monsters and events. Now we're going into the dungeon itself. So just kind of ways to make the dungeon a little more interesting, ways to customize your dungeon floor plans or your rooms to have different kinds of things happening, and just adding a little bit of variety to the game stuff that you already have. So in addition to White Dwarf, there were also 3 issues of Deathblow. There was also a Citadel Journal that had some Warhammer Quest stuff in it, but I don't have any of the issues of the Citadel Journal. But here we have Deathblow issue 1, 2, and 3. These just contained a whole bunch of really kind of high quality fan expansions and hobby expansions for Warhammer Quest. We had how to kind of simulate traveling in a town, a banking system, and all kinds of different things here. Just a really cool little zines. I wish more modern dungeon crawl board games had zines like this that could expand it easily, and could encourage the fan community to get some stuff printed. I know that most of this stuff now exists online on BGG and stuff, but I don't know. There is something just really cool and fun about having a zine to hold, and a dungeon crawl board game zine could be a lot of fun. Maybe that's something that Dungeon Dive will look into. It seems kind of like a losing endeavor, though. But these have some cool things. They had some warriors and some adventures and just some different ways to expand your game. Some of the information in here was reprinted and collected from the White Dwarf issues, or maybe it came out here first and then went into the White Dwarf issues. I'm not sure exactly, but I know there were only 3 issues published. The first one is pretty hefty, and then by the 3rd issue, they were kind of, it looks like maybe they were at the bottom of the barrel. Maybe they just didn't have a lot of stuff to print, so this is kind of like towards the end of Warhammer Quest's life. That is Deathblow 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to be taking a look at some of the DIY stuff, and the first thing we'll take a look at real quick are just some of the websites that you can search for. The best thing to do is just to search on Google. You're going to find a whole bunch of stuff. Just search for Warhammer Quest 1995 and what you're looking for. If you're looking for tiles or cards or warriors, you will find links to all kinds of different resources. Sometimes check Scribd. Scribd will sometimes have whole PDFs of cool things for Warhammer Quest, and if you just sign up for one of their 7-day trials, you can download everything they have for free. But some of the main resources that I've used over the years are Chronicles of the Old World and Beyond, Warhammer Quest, so you'll have lots of cool things to get there. The museum, the Ultimate Warhammer Quest resource site, all kinds of cool stuff there. Bob's Warhammer Quest Campaign of Pain. This was kind of a fun little blog about Warhammer Quest. And then, of course, Lost of the Damned. This was more focused on Hero Quest and Advanced Hero Quest, but there is also some Warhammer Quest stuff there. EasternEmpires.com. I believe I got some tiles from this site. And then the main one here is, of course, the Warhammer Quest customized run board. This is a private forum. This is that collects all of Little Monk's stuff. You can request access to this board in order to post and in order to download a lot of the stuff you're going to see today. So one of the main things that Little Monk has been working on over the years is this collection called the Ultimate Adventure Book. And this is a book of quests and a book of information that compiles all of the official GW stuff, including everything from the White Dwarf issues and also the good stuff from Deathblow. It incorporates it all, plus all of Little Monk's quests. And this book is just absolutely overflowing with cool quests to go on. Hundreds of quests. This book will provide you with many, many years of fun in Warhammer Quest. Now, a lot of the stuff in this book will require you to make your own tiles, which I've shown you how. Just print, use some spray glue, mount on some poster board, some mounting board, and you'll have a really good tile. For the cards, what you can do if you don't want to like print out card stock, what I did is use a sandwich method where I bought some blank cards. These are like Euro size cards. And I just sandwiched those. I would print out the front of the card and the back of the card and then just sandwich those and put those in a sleeve. Warhammer Quest is one of the only games I have sleeved because I do have a whole bunch of proxied cards like this, but it's pretty easy to make cards like that. But the Ultimate Adventure book has everything you need. It is such a cool book. Highly recommended. You have all of your special rules from all of the different White Dwarf issues and all of the different special tiles. But again, you are going to need to print out quite a few tiles to really take advantage of this book. And there are still a ton of tiles that I need to print out. As a matter of fact, all of the cards that are used in this book, Little Monk did have printed, and all of those are available here. So these are all of the various cards that correspond to his quests, with a few that that I have made, and so those are all right there. Again, there's another set of the Dark Secret cards, but these are the cards that will correspond. So it is a pretty fat stack of cards that you will need to print out in order to fully take advantage of the Ultimate Adventure book. And then we have his expanded traveling hazard. So this is 108 possibilities for settlement travel. So these are all new and compiled travel events that you can use in your games. These are very fun. They are broken up. They are separated into different kinds of categories there. I just printed these out and had them spiral bound at a local copy place. Very handy. Lots of fun there. He did the same thing again for settlement events. So these settlement events are all new and compiled settlement events that you can have for when your warriors go back to the settlement. He has also made an ultimate treasure book, which is like, I think it's like 150 pages of random treasure to roll on if you want to roll on treasure rather than drawing cards. I haven't printed that out yet though. This was one of his first big expansions. So this is the Hall of the Hag Queen. This is one of his expansions that I have printed everything out, including the tiles. I have all of the cards here. So these are the various cards that Little Monk made. When I first printed this out, I had all of my DIY cards made with the sandwich method. But he supplied all of these, and we had to pay quite a bit of money to get all of these professionally printed. But it's really nice to have. And again, go to the Facebook page to keep track of if you will ever have those printed again. But this is a full expansion that adds just as much stuff as any of the other official expansions. It's well laid out. It's written in the same kind of tone and style as the GW expansions. And this is super cool. All kind of focusing on a dark elf there, or the Hag Queen, I should say. So this is just, the rest of these, I believe, are just kind of compilation books, except for this one. Let's take a look at this one. This one is available on the Warhammer Quest fan page as a PDF. And this is Hike's House Rules. I highly recommend this book here. Print it out, have it spiral bound, or put it in a notebook. This is a collection of all kinds of really cool things, including all kinds of new treasure tables that you could roll on. This has dungeon events and settlement events and different kinds of house rules to use. This book right here can expand your game a lot. Very, very handy. House Rules by Hike. And then the rest of the books here are just kind of collections of articles that I have found, except for this one. I keep lots of exceptions here. Like I said, I found a PDF of the roleplay book. And so I just printed out the bestiary and monster tables so I could have easy access to all of the monster information while I was playing. And here I have some adventures that I have found online. This was starting a new adventure, ways to get started. This was kind of the precursor to, I believe that was the precursor to Little Monk's adventure book, I believe, if I remember correctly. But I've Beyond the Gray Mountains is a fan campaign that was never finished, unfortunately. Every Good Barbarian Deserves Fudge, a 3-part mini companion. Hezok's Revenge, which I believe Hezok's Revenge was eventually expanded by Little Monk into the Mountains of Mayhem, because Hezok's Revenge was a Chaos Dwarf. And then the Tunnels of Pestilence, which is a expanded version of that domain of the Horned Rat article that was in White Dwarf that we took a look at. So again, very cool. But this is just all kind of stuff that I've found online over the years and just printed it out. I don't have access to these PDFs anymore, so I am very lucky that I did print these out. And then here we have the compendium. So this is a compendium of all of the, or most of the articles that we took a look at in White Dwarf. I found those and printed them out here. Here is my facsimile of the Traps and Perils. So I found that and I printed out the rules for that there. But these rules are also in Little Monk's adventure book. But all kinds of stuff in there. And then dungeon features. I don't remember where I found, let's see, dungeon features was from the warhammerquest.free.fr. And this is just kind of charts on things to add to your dungeon, like furniture And just ways to kind of like flesh out your dungeons if you want to add a little bit more variety while you are exploring. And also serious injuries and wounds. Here we have more treasure. So this was just a bunch of cards that I found. But what I did is I went through and just kind of numbered them, and then I could just roll. So actually this is Little Monk's Pack 4. So I actually own Pack 4 now because I bought his printed version. But before that, I just assigned each card a number, and then I would just roll some dice to figure out what I found and then write that down on my card or my hero chart. And then here we have, if you wanted to separate your, if you wanted to tier out your treasure, we have treasure for levels 1 through 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10. And then there are all the cards. So I believe a lot of this stuff has been expanded and fully expanded in Little Monk's Book of Ultimate Treasure, which you can get. And then this is just another kind of random collection, a bunch of different D100 tables for dungeon events, travel hazards, more traveling hazards, dogs, a chart on dogs that you can get as pets, more settlement events, more harbor events, an expanded captain's table, and then even more events. So this is just a whole book full of all of the various kind of random tables and event charts that I found for Warhammer Quest on the various websites. And I just printed those out and put them all into a single huge book there. And then finally, we have the Little Monk cards. These are all of his expansions that I have not printed any tiles for. So I still need to get tiles printed for these. And that's going to be pretty expensive because there are a lot. But I'll give you kind of a preview of all of the stuff that he's done. So we have here, we have the Manor of the Spectre, a Warhammer Quest supplement. So we have some new tiles here. So Freezing Passage, Midnight Chamber, and there's your objective room, the parlor. And then we have all of our special cards with the special rules. We have the treasure that you get with that expansion, and then we have our event cards. So these are all available on his custom forum, his private forum that you can gain access to, and they are available in PDF. I'm not sure if he's going to be printing these again, but you can always make your own. And so here we have the Chaos Dwarf. I don't think I will ever print out the Chaos Dwarf expansion, just because Chaos Dwarf minis are so expensive and so hard to find. And they're also really hard to find good proxies. Here we have the Caverns of Slaughter. This is kind of a Beastman themed, or the Beastman themed expansion here. You have all of your events and your special cards there, and your treasure, and then your objective room there. We have here a kind of a vampire theme, kind of a universal monster theme, the Castle of Darkness. We have our treasure. We have our different passages. That is a cool junction. I really like that junction there. Your spider's nest, your storage cellar, and then your vampire's lair for your objective room. And then we have our various events and monster cards for that expansion. And then we have here, we have a Carnival of Carnage. This was kind of a different kind of expansion. This added all kinds of weird kind of like little mini bosses or little monsters to fight. And also some more event cards there. And some treasure. And I think that's it here. And then these are some little tokens to keep track of certain things. I haven't read the rules completely on this expansion there. And then we have the Realms of the Savage. And this is a pretty big, I think I have 2 copies of this somehow. I'm not quite sure why I have so many cards for this expansion, but I'm pretty sure I have some duplicates of some of the things in this expansion here. This is a kind of a forest themed tile set there, and I need to print all of these out. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to store more tiles though. Yeah, somehow I have doubles. I'm really not quite sure why I have doubles of so many of these for that particular expansion. And then we have a whole nother tile set here called the Dwarf Mine. So this would be a tile set if you wanted to play in some dwarven mines there. And I think there are some adventures that correspond to that excavation site in the Little Monk's book. And then he also provided some other cards that you can cut out for some of the rubble, some of the tokens, a cool portcullis card there, some cave-ins, some pit traps, and then a whole bunch of just various information cards. And then this little expansion here for the Sisters of Sigmar. And you have some of their various equipment there. And then all of your kind of your title cards for all of the various packs that we've taken a look at over this series, over the course of this series. So yeah, that's about it. That's kind of a really, really quick rundown of Warhammer Quest 1995. Again, a game that I really do think is still the gold standard for this kind of very traditional dungeon crawl board game. The kind where it's more about having random fun, random chaos, exploring random dungeons, just going on one quest after another, trying to keep your heroes alive, trying to survive the evil and the onslaught, trying to get more gold, to get more loot, to get more power, to get better loot, and continuing on and on and on until your character dies, and then you just kind of start over again. It's not a narrative-driven campaign. It is a survival campaign full of adventure, full of fun, and full of just an overflowing with fan content. And it doesn't seem to be slowing down. It seems to be speeding up these days. There is so much available for this game, and so much of the fan-created content is such high quality. It is as high quality as anything that was originally created for the game. And that's why Warhammer Quest is considered part of the Dungeon Dive Master Class series. It really doesn't get any better than this classic. So all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this series. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.